Hey, how's it going everybody? My name is Kevin, and in this video I'm going to be showing you my budget commander dinosaur build. This deck is sitting at about $80 right now. It's late August, almost September. The most expensive card in this deck is going to be Gishath, the Sun's Avatar. This thing's like 16 bucks, almost $17. So without that, this entire build could get dropped down a lot. But yeah, getting this build below $50 is very hard just because of Gishath. If you want to see all the cards in the deck, just check out the link in the description below. I'm also going to leave some timestamps in case you're short on time and just want to see some specific parts. Later in the video, we're going to go over some upgrades and stuff. But for now, let's just do the normal deck tech. As always, this is just an outline. Feel free to customize your deck in any way you see fit, and feel free to leave suggestions below. So let's first go over the commander. This is Gishath, Sun's Avatar, 5 generic with Naya colors. It's a 7/6, trample, vigilance, haste, big dinosaur. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, reveal that many cards on top of the library and put any number of dinosaur creature cards from among them on the battlefield and the rest in the bottom of your library in a random order. Now, we are playing a lot of dinosaurs, so if we can get this on the field and get attacking to our opponent and we're dealing some damage, we're going to get a lot of free cards on the field. We're playing about 40 creatures, probably like 90%, 95% are all dinosaurs. So we're going to be able to get some free boys on the field really quickly, which is going to be a lot of fun. And just building a huge board of dinosaurs is also just pretty entertaining as well. So that is our commander. Next up, let's go over the big dinosaurs. These are going to be the things that we're going to be hoping to cheat out with Gishath and, get a little lucky on the dice, not dice roll, but the flips. But also, if we can somehow get these cards on the battlefield, we're going to be doing really well. First up, we got Thrasta, Tempest Rar, 10 generic and 2 green. It's a 7/7. However, this spell costs 3 less to cast for each other spell this turn. It's got trample, haste, trample over planeswalkers, and it has hexproof as long as it enters the battlefield this turn. Beautiful artwork, just a nice big dino. And then we got Galta, kind of the same mana cost. However, it's a 12/12 with trample, and you're usually casting it for about 2 mana because it's just that easy to get out with all these big dinos. Next up, we got the Primal Dawn, just a nice huge flyer, vigilance, trample, indestructible. You got to have something like this in the deck. Next up, we got Burning Sun's Avatar. It's a 6/6 and enters the battlefield. It's basically, you bolt 2 things. One has to be a creature, the other has to be an opponent. Another pretty cheap card, though. This is like sitting at like 50 cents. Burning Sun's Avatar is another card, and whenever it enters the battlefield or any other creature enters the battlefield, you gain life equal to their creature's toughness. Just a good way to get you, help you stay in the game, especially if your opponent has like some life draining deck. Definitely would add one of those. We got the Quartz Wood Crasher. This gives you more dinosaur tokens. And he's a 6/6 for 5 mana. Got this card. This card's like 10 cents. It's just a 8 mana 9/9. This is probably something you want to replace later on, but just for another big dinosaur, super cheap. And then we got the Itali, the Primal Storm, the huge Spinosaurus. Every time this card attacks, you're going to exile the top card of each card's library, and you can cast any non-land card without paying the mana cost. If you're playing with like 3 other people, you're going to be exiling 3 other cards and probably getting something juicy for free. So this is going to be my lineup for the big dinosaurs. There's obviously going to be a lot of other cards you can add. However, these cards right here are super cheap and affordable. There are some better dinosaurs, definitely, but I'm not willing to spend right now like another 10, 20 bucks on any of those cards. However, if it comes up, they will be added to the deck. So we got some big dinosaurs, and even our commander is pretty expensive, sitting at 8 mana. How are we going to get this card out? Well, we have a lot of cards to help facilitate that. We're running a lot of ramp, as well as kind of cards that synergize well with dinosaurs. In this section, that's what we'll be going over. So here we got Commune with Dinosaurs, 1 mana. Look at the top 5 cards. Basically pick a dinosaur or land, put it in your hand. Got cards like Rampant Growth, put a basic land on the battlefield. Next up is Farseek. It kind of does the same thing as Rampant Growth, but you can kind of get out fetch lands, not fetch lands, but you can get out the shock lands. Anything that has a plain, island, swamp, or mountain on the card, you can search for it and put on the battlefield tapped. Really good. Just kind of expensive right now, sitting at about like $2. I think it will come down in price. I remember buying mine like 25 cents, so I'm not sure exactly what decks are running it right now, but yeah, I'm kind of out of the meta game right now. Thunderherd Migration is very similar to Rampant Growth, except you have to reveal a dinosaur or you pay 1 extra generic. Same thing to put a basic land on the battlefield tapped. Got cards like Cultivate, reveal up to 2 basic land cards, put on the battlefield tapped. Same thing, Kodama's Reach, same exact card as Cultivate. Then we got this card. It's kind of similar to Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, except you can search for 2 gate cards, which can help facilitate your mana, especially because we're running 3 colors. But if not, you can also search out your basic lands. Got Overgrowth. This is 3 mana, and you enchant the land, and whenever you tap that land for mana, you get to add 2 to your mana pool. or two forests. I like cards like that. Ranging Raptor, got Enrage. Whenever this card is dealt damage, you're going to put a basic land card onto the battlefield tapped. I added this card here, however, I'm going to put off to the side for now. We're going to put that in a different section. Got Kajali's Caller, 1 mana, 0/3, kind of a good blocker too. But dinosaur spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. Super good. Cards like Drover the Mighty, kind of a similar thing with the synergy of dinosaurs, but this card's for 2 mana. It's going to be a 3/3, and we can tap it and add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. Got the Hunt Master, dinosaur spells cost 1 less to cast, and we could tap this and give anything or any dinosaur haste. Got the Seer, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. We can sacrifice this and return a dinosaur card from our graveyard to our hand. Really good. And the last card we have this, it's a 4 mana 2/4 dinosaur spells you cast cost 2 less to cast. It is a little bit more pricey, but the payoff could be a lot better because you're getting 2 generic less. So that kind of rounds out our ramping, kind of, we're not going to pay all of the mana that is required. There's definitely a lot of other options too, like I said, but these cards are super cheap. The only expensive one here is Farseek. This next section we're going to be discussing cards that help us draw. First card is going to be Runic Armasaur. If you can get your hands on this, please do. This is an amazing card. It's like $4 or $5 though. It's a 3 mana 2/5. Whenever an opponent activates an ability of a creature or land that isn't a mana ability, you draw a card. In a commander game, if this is on the field, you will be drawing cards. That's just the name of the game. Your opponents will be doing those things. Next up, we got Shaper's Sanctuaries, 1 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature you control becomes a target of a spell and ability, an opponent controls, you get to draw a card. So yeah, for 1 mana, you're typically at least going to be drawing a couple cards because we have so many creatures. Our opponents are going to be wanting to interact with them and try to destroy them. This also does a spell or ability, so it's pretty versatile. I'm not sure why this card is so cheap still. This card's like $1.50. There might be other cards out there that are better for replacements, but hey, for me, this is good. Colossal Majesty, 3 mana at the beginning of your upkeep. If you control a creature 4 or greater, you get to draw a card. Our entire deck is full of very large creatures, so we will be drawing off of this. Harmonize is kind of a cheeky card, just draw for 4 mana, just draw 3. Nothing too fancy here. Got Life Crafter's Bestiary, 3 mana. At the beginning of our upkeep, we get the Scry, and then whenever we cast a creature spell, we may pay 1 extra green. If we do, we get to draw a card. The Scry at the beginning of each of our upkeeps is really good to help facilitate our draws and make sure we're getting the cards we want to see. But we also are going to be playing a lot of creatures, and just paying 1 extra mana might be great for just drawing an extra card. And we got the 5 mana Garruk's Pack Leader, 4/4. Whenever another creature with power 3 or greater enters the battlefield under our control, get to draw a card. Again, there might be some other cards you want in your deck to help you draw, but for me, these do the job pretty well. Definitely the carrier of the deck right now would be the Armasaur Beast card. Next up, we're going to be going over the Enraged engine we got going on. We already saw one Enrage card, the Ranging Raptor, earlier. However, I wanted to put that specifically in the land development part of the deck. First card, we got Siegehorn Ceratops, 2/2 for 2. Whenever it's dealt damage, you put 2 counters on it. This card can grow pretty big, and that's what makes it pretty fun. Got Needletooth Raptor. Whenever it's dealt damage, you deal 5 damage to an opponent's creature. Another great card. Probably the best Enraged just card in general. Maybe right behind, actually better than Raging Raptor. There's Ripjaw Raptor, 4 mana, 4/5. You get to draw cards every time it's dealt damage. This card is about like $3, but it's probably one of them that you need in the deck. So highly recommend picking that up if you like dinosaurs. Got Snapping Sailback. Whenever it's dealt damage, you get to put a counter on it. It's got Flash too, so you can flash it in during combat and make it grow bigger, as well as destroy an opponent's creature. Got Trapjaw Giant. This card is like $7-8 maybe, but it's pretty good. 5 mana, 5/5. Whenever it's dealt damage, exile a target creature an opponent controls until this card leaves the field. Yeah, it's really good, but it is pretty expensive relatively to the rest of the cards in the deck. I really didn't want to skimp out on some of these dinosaurs like this one, even though it's more expensive and it definitely raises the cost of the deck. It's just like if you're playing a dinosaur deck though, you're going to want to play cards like Trapjaw Giant, especially Ripjaw Raptor too. Like I would just spend maybe in those areas some money on those cards because they're just so fun. And look at the size of that dinosaur. We got Bellowing Aegisaur, 6 mana, 3/5. Whenever it's dealt damage, put a +1 counter on each other creature you control. Oh, that is so good because we're going to be having a huge board usually anyway with all these creatures. Getting a counter every time this is dealt damage to all of our other creatures is pretty OP. Got Silverclad Ferocidon. It's kind of a high mana cost, but whenever this is dealt damage, each opponent sacrifices a permanent. Oh, that is spicy. And we don't have to sacrifice permanents, they do. This card's like $3 also, but the fact that everyone sacrifices something every time this is dealt damage is just so dumb. So definitely highly recommend adding this to the deck. So we don't have too many enraged creatures. I know there's other ones too, but I wanted to pick some of the best and cheapest. But now we have some cards that are going to help us ping these creatures to actually proc their effects. We get cards like Fiery Justice for 9 colors. We get to deal 5 damage as we choose to any number of target creatures and or players. Target opponent gains 5 life. I mean, the gaining 5 life to me doesn't really mean that much because the amount of value we're going to be getting from dealing 5 damage as divided as we choose is insane. So we can deal like 1 damage here, 1 damage to any of our creatures, or each of our creatures, and ping them multiple times. Highly recommend adding this. This is such a nice planeswalker. This card's like $1, maybe $1.50, super cheap, and what it does for this deck is beautiful. For 4 mana, we can give something double strike. Okay, that's not bad, but not amazing. But for her -2, it deals 2 damage divided as we choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and our players. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna do 1/1 and just target 2 of our creatures and ping them twice. We're gonna get a lot of value out of her minusing and just pinging our own creatures. Highly recommend. Next up, we got Raging Swordtooth. 5 mana, 5/5 trample, but whenever it enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each other creature. Oh, that is spicy. So we got a board of enraged creatures out and this thing hits the field, we deal 1 damage to everything. We're getting so much value out of whatever enraged creature we have on the field. Great card. Raging Regisaur, I like this card too a lot. It's a 4 mana 4/4. Whenever it attacks, it deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So we're obviously most likely going to be picking 1 damage to target creature, and we're going to target one of our creatures to gain the effect. There's definitely a lot of other options I kind of wanted to add here with pinging our own creatures. There's cards like Dual Shot. I think that's like a 1 mana red sorcery, and you deal like 2 damages up to 2 creatures or something like that. It's a good option too, but I think this is fine for now. I'll definitely test it out and see if it needs some more like pinging and effects so we can proc these enrage triggers, but for now, that's fine. The next section is going to be kind of just other supporting dinosaurs or creatures that are going to help us, get through the game and kind of help out the rest of our either big dinosaurs or our enraged creatures. Got Priest of the Awakening Sun. It's a 1 mana 1/1. This kind of helps us stay in the game if we get this card out early. We can reveal our dinosaur from our hand every upkeep and gain 2 life. It's not bad, not amazing. But if we pay 3 generic and 2 white, we can sacrifice this and search our library for a dinosaur card and put it in our hand. Kind of helps us out late game, but also helps us out early game. Just kind of gaining some life, make sure we're kind of getting some sort of value. Because this is more of like I guess a later game type of deck where we're gonna need to set up the board, get the mana flow going and stuff. So got Kajali Sunwing, great card again. 3 mana 2/3. Creatures your opponent controls enters the battlefield tapped. So good, because that means no haste creatures can get in on us. This card's like $2, but it's also $2 for a reason. It's really a card you need in the deck because it just really disrupts our opponents in a lot of ways. Got Thrashing Brontodon, 3 mana 3/4, sacrifice to destroy a target enchantment or artifact. Obviously you have to pay 1 though. Really good at just some removal, and also he's a big boy. Got Forerunner of the Empire. When it enters the battlefield, we can search the library for a dinosaur and put it onto our library, or the top of our library. And also when a dinosaur enters the battlefield under our control, we may have this card deal 1 damage to each creature. Yeah, really good. This card could go in the enrage section, however it has multiple functions. First is obviously going to be to search out the dinosaur that we need, put it on the library and draw it next turn. And the secondary effect is once the dinosaur hits the field, we're dealing 1 damage to everything and we're getting massive amounts of value if we have some enraged creatures already on the battlefield. Got Spellbreaker Behemoth. This can be countered, and creature spells we control with power 5 or greater cannot be countered. This is going to make sure that our opponents can't counter our stuff, and I just really hate blue. Not that I hate blue, but I hate when I get countered. This is going to make it so that ain't really going to happen. Got Regisaur Alpha, 5 mana 4/4. Other dinosaurs we control have haste, and when it enters the battlefield, it's going to create a 3/3 dinosaur creature token with trample. Really good supporting card because it's going to allow any dinosaur that hits the field to immediately be able to attack that turn. But also the token creation is great because it's just going to broaden our board even further. We got the Majestic Helicopterus. For a 4 mana 2/2 sounds pretty trash, but this does have flying, and whenever this attacks, we get to pick a dinosaur, and that's going to gain flying to the end of the turn too. One of the things the deck lacks is that kind of flying, unblockable kind of aspect to it. but this card will help us get in some more damage by just giving a huge dinosaur flying. Good supporting card. This card's about like $2, Temple, Allosaur, but it's really needed, especially if you're running some Enrage stuff. If a source would deal damage to another dinosaur we control, prevent all but one of that damage. Reason why this is super important, obviously if we have an Enrage card, it's going to still get dealt damage, so the Enrage trigger is going to proc, but the creature most likely won't die. If we have Enraged creatures on the field, this is a very big problem for our opponents and will probably most likely get targeted for removal. Next up we got Thundering Spineback, kind of expensive card at 7 mana, but all of our other creatures are going to get, or other dinosaurs are going to get +1/+1. And we can spend 6 mana, which is a lot, but we're going to create a 3/3 dinosaur token with trample. Another way to broaden our board, if we have a lot of mana lying around doing nothing, we can just do that. And it's not once per turn either, and we don't have to tap it. But yeah, giving all of our other dinosaurs +1/+1 is pretty good. Next up we got the Gorging Ceratops, 7 mana, so again a little expensive, but whenever this attacks, other creatures you control gain double strike to the end of turn. That is really good. Picture like 5-6 creatures attacking, all have double strike. Yeah, it's pretty spicy. Got Sky Terror, kind of a 2 mana, 2/2 flying menace. Not amazing, but just a card to kind of throw in there just to maybe play earlier, or just to be a potential blocker for a flying type our opponents might have. Might be a cuttable card, but it's there for now. We got Crest Herd Collar, 5 mana, 3/3, not that good again, but this has trample, and when it enters the battlefield, it creates a 3/3 dinosaur with trample. Again, kind of just expanding the board. Pretty cheap card too, like cost-wise. Got Deathcore Scavenger. When this card enters the battlefield or attacks, we exile a target card from a graveyard, and we either gain some life or get a +1/+1 until the end of turn. Not amazing, but it helps us kind of interact with our opponent's graveyard and try to get rid of some stuff that might be a problem. Got Charging Tuskodon, 5 mana, 4/4, trample, and whenever it deals damage, it deals double damage instead to that player. Just another kind of cool dinosaur. Really love this artwork. It's 5 mana, 5/5 trample haste. Pretty generic, pretty big T-Rex, so added that to the deck. Got Relentless Raptor, 2 mana, 3/3. Pretty good, but it also has vigilance, but it must attack and block each combat, so that could be detrimental later in the game, but earlier in the game we got a 3/3 for 2 mana, pretty good. Next up we got Mayella the Anima, we got Naya Colors. The main thing here is for 3 generic and Naya Colors, we can tap this card, look at the top 5 cards of our library. We can put a creature with power 5 or greater from among them onto the battlefield. This can really spice up the game by just getting us a really cheeky card out of nowhere. The only problem with this card in my opinion though is getting on the field, and then you have to pay 6 mana to tap it. At that rate it's probably not that efficient, but it's another way just to get some cheeky dinosaur out onto the field. And then we got the Solemn Simulacrum. I like adding this card to all of my commander decks because it's just pretty versatile and fits into everywhere. When it enters the battlefield we get a basic land onto the battlefield tapped, and when it dies we draw a card. Pretty cool. So this kind of rounds out the supporting creatures as well as just some things. So this kind of rounds out our supporting creatures. Again, there's probably a lot of other cards you could add out there, but for my list, this is kind of some of the cards I considered as well as things that I thought were important to add to the deck while staying on a budget. Next up, let's go over some removal. We don't have a lot of removal, and I think that might be a mistake, but the main thing with this deck, again, is I wanted to make sure Gishath was hitting hard and hitting a lot of creatures. Once we hit with Gishath, I want to make sure I'm flipping over a lot of dinosaurs. That's why I'm keeping the spells really, really low. Or I guess the instant and sorceries. I keep mixing up Yu-Gi-Oh terminology. Got Heaven and Earth here. I think this is very fitting for the theme of the deck. X and a green deals X damage to each creature with flying, and then for the Aftermath deals X damage to each creature without flying. Kind of cool. Next up we got Savage Stomp. This is always going to be casted for 1 mana because we're always going to be targeting a dinosaur. Get a counter on it, and then it fights target creature we don't control. Primal Might kind of fits again the theme of the dinosaurs. Target a creature, gets +X in it, end of turn, then fight something else. This is going to help us destroy some creatures on the field that we don't want to see, as well as trigger the Enraged ability to get some extra value. Got Naya Charm. This can deal 3 damage to target creature, or return target card from a graveyard to its owner's hand, or we can tap all creatures target player controls. Just kind of a versatile, cheap card that I want to throw in the deck in case I needed something else to do. Got Beast Within. This is just, I hate that permanent, and it's going to die, and they're going to create a 3/3 beast token. But yeah, instant speed, I hate anything, and that's going away. So that really rounds out the instant and sorceries. Not I mean, we do have other instant sorceries, but mostly they're going to be for land ramping and getting our board built up so we can summon big creatures, not for really removal. That might be a mistake again, however, that is a decision you got to make when you're designing your deck. Again, this is just a template. That's why Commander's amazing, because you can take what other people do and make them spicy in your own. Now we got Swiftfoot Boots. This is, I mean, I think $1, $2 card, but pretty necessary in this deck. Equip creature is hexproof and haste, and equip for 1. Yeah, that's really good. Giving something hexproof and haste. Oh. With all these creatures, we're really going to want to make sure they're not going to be too open to removal. That is one thing this deck is lacking that I did notice, is the ability to protect our creatures, as well as make sure that if we get board wiped or something, that we're not going to be detrimentally destroyed. However, those cards are a little bit more expensive. We will talk about them when we go over to the upgrade section. That is something I highly recommend upgrading, is like things like, let's say, a Boros Charm, which could be probably added to this deck, but it's like another extra $2, $3. We really don't want to get board wiped with this deck, and also we have a hard time dealing with just removal. This card at least will give it hexproof and as well as haste, just so we can at least sneak into some extra spicy damage. Some other artifacts we're running are Command Sphere, Prismatic Lens, and Arcane Signet, just kind of staples you can run in any commander deck. If you don't have these already, I recommend picking them up just because they help filter your mana. That kind of rounds up that section. We'll move on over to the lands. I'm running 33 lands right now, and that might be a mistake. I might be too greedy with the creatures, but I figured we're running so many mana ramping cards and stuff that running a little bit less lands to get more creatures that we could potentially hit off of Gishath might be beneficial. But yeah, going into the lands, we run Path of Ancestry, but we can tap this, add 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. When that mana is spent to cast a creature spell that shows a creature type with your commander, scry 1. You need this card for this deck, because almost our whole entire deck is dinosaurs. So we're going to be scrying a lot if this card's on the field, obviously. We got Command Tower, kind of a staple in every commander deck. We got Evolving Wilds and Evolving Wilds like brother. Then I decided to run each of the temples because, again, scrying is a lot of fun and super helpful. So we got these 3 scry lands. Each of those are about $1, maybe a little less. But I do highly recommend picking these up because you can throw them in really any deck, and it does help filter your mana base because it's got the 2 colors. But that extra scry is pretty nice. Got Unclaimed Territory. It's the most expensive land in the deck, sitting at about like $1.50 maybe. When it enters the battlefield, we choose a creature type, which will obviously be Dinosaur. When we tap this, we add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. Spend this mana only to cast a creature type of the chosen type. So we just gotta make sure when we do that, we're only casting creatures of dinosaurs, but that is a lot of cards in our deck. Got cards like Jungle Shrine, just again enters tapped, but we can add Naya colors. I don't have the cards in the deck, but we will be adding the gates, so the like Selesnya gate, the Gruul gate, stuff like that. And then we're gonna be adding some mountains, swamps, and forests. I don't want to spend too much time on the mana base anyway, because most people don't really care. They usually just consult the deck tech online to figure out what mana cards they need. Just check out in the link description below for more mana cards. But yeah, definitely Path of Ancestry and probably Unclaimed Territory. If you can get a hold of those, definitely think you should. Next up, we're going to go into some upgrades. Obviously, there's so many upgrades you can have. However, these are the ones that I have right now with me. First up, we're going to go with Polyraptor. Pretty great cards. 8 mana, 5/5. Whenever it's dealt damage, create a token that's a copy of Polyraptor. So there is an infinite combo. You got Marauding Raptor. 2 mana, 2/3. Creature spells you cast costs 1 less to cast. However, whenever a creature enters the battlefield, deal 2 damage to it. If it was a dinosaur, this card gets +2 to the end of turn. So what happens? You have this on the field, you play this. This card deals 2 damage to this. Whenever this is dealt damage, you create a token of this. So you create a token of this. But then this card will get +2. Then this enters the battlefield, this deals 2 damage to here. Well, now that this gets dealt damage, we're going to create another token, right? And then this card would keep getting +2, +2, +2. At least I'm almost positive that's how that combo works, because again, you're creating a copy of Polyraptor. But yeah, these would be 2 pretty good options in the deck. The reason why I didn't really add this card to the deck is because, not that it's expensive, but it's just, I think I had a lot smaller creatures in the deck where if this card is on the field, it would have like counter synergy with it, and I didn't want to disrupt that. But Marauding Raptor could be another great pick. Got Carnage Tyrant, one of my favorite dinosaurs. Can't be countered, trample, hexproof. Just a dream card against counter decks. This card's so fun. Apex Altosaur, 9 mana, 10/10. When it enters the battlefield, it fights a creature. And then whenever it's dealt damage, it fights another target creature. So this thing can just keep fighting creatures and just clearing the board. That is fun. Got Rampaging Ferocidon. It's got menace, players can't gain life, and whenever another creature enters the battlefield, deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. Got the God of Revels. Thought this card was pretty cool. Indestructible. At the beginning of our combat of our turn, another creature you control gains haste and gets +X until the end of the turn, where X is that creature's power. It's actually pretty spicy for this deck because we're really going to want to put down some big dinosaurs and have them attack and kind of surprise our opponent, where they're going to need to block, because if they don't, they're going to be taking a lot of damage. But if they do block, then our enrage mechanic or triggers are going to trigger and then, yeah, get a lot of value. We do want that haste though. Got some Planeswalkers here. The Arcba Ranger probably isn't my #1 pick for Planeswalker, but we can get our creatures bigger, give them trample. Probably not the best here, but it is an option. Domri Raid, the OG one from Gate Crash. We can look at the top of our library, get some creature cards in our hand, and his -2 is if he pit fights, target creature control fights another target creature. Pretty fun. Got Chaos Bringer, add a red or green. If the mana is spent on a creature, it gains Riot. Really spicy. Is -3, we can search for some more creatures on the top of our library. Got the Wild Speaker. Garruk really helps us mana accelerate here. Untap with the 2 target lands. You could put a beast creature on the battlefield. Mostly going to be for just mana ramping with this specific Garruk. Next up, we got the Primal Hunter. Probably not the best one, but the -3 can give us a lot of draw, especially if we have Galt out or something. But just another fun creature if we want to get some beast tokens on the battlefield. Heroic Intervention, probably a card you need to have in the deck. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible. The indestructible is pretty important, especially because we're pretty prone to board wipes. But this is a pretty expensive card. I'm surprised it got that expensive, but I can see exactly why. Get your hands on a copy. I highly recommend throwing it in the deck. Got Boros Charm. You can deal 4 damage to target player. Probably not going to be using that. The most likely one is permanents you control gain indestructible to the end of the turn. Again, you're really going to need that indestructible and try to make sure your board doesn't get absolutely destroyed. We got Eldamari's Call. Man, it's such a good card. Search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it in your hand. Just search for that dinosaur that you want. 2 mana, instant speed. Got Green Sun Zenith, just another way to search our library for a card that we want. I guess a green creature specifically, but we have a lot of them in the deck. And just find a creature that we kind of want. Got Fracturing Gust, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. I get to gain 2 life for each permanent destroyed this way. Commander's got a lot of artifacts running around, so this card could really come in handy. It is like 5 mana, so a little up there, but it does come in handy again. Got cards like cheap cards like Path to Exile, Condemn, and Swords to Plowshare. All just 1 mana nice removals that white has to offer. Definitely great cards. Again, the reason why I didn't add them to this deck is not that they're that expensive, but really wanted to focus this deck as mostly as I could on the I'm gonna summon Gishath and get some big dinosaurs on the field. Then we got cards like Cast Out, just another thing like, hey, I don't want that permanent on the field, goodbye. Got Pyroclasm, 2 mana, deal 2 damage to each creature. Could also help with our enrage triggers and stuff. Bonfire of the Damned, you can even cast this on yourself just to do extra damage to all your creatures so you can proc their effects. Or you can try to wipe out your opponent's board, up to you. Got Chromatic Lantern to help filter on mana just in case. Rhythm of the Wild would be great for this deck. Creature spells that you control can't be countered. Nice. But also non-token creatures you control have a Riot, so they're going to be enter the battlefield with a +1 counter or have haste. Utopia Sprawl, kind of a lot cheaper overgrown card. However, this card I think is like $5-10 bucks now. I don't really remember, but if you got it lying around, throwing it in the deck might be pretty good. Lightning Greaves is a little bit better than Swiftfoot Boot, but they're both still good cards. This has haste and Shroud, but the equip cost is 0, so I mean it depends what you want, but similar to that card. But I like this one too. This is like $5 bucks maybe. Then we just got some lands. Obviously you got to upgrade. You need the Rootbound Crag, things like Grove of the Burn Willows, Sunpetal Grove. This card actually I don't think you should have here. Obviously if you want to add some fetch lands, the Temple Garden, you got like Stomping Grounds, stuff like that. Like Cinderglade would be great too, because you can search this off Farseek because it has mountain and forest. I do really like Castle Garenbrig. For basically 4 mana and tap this, so 5 mana for land cards, we can add 6 to our mana pool. So it kind of cheats in one, but we can only cast creatures or activate abilities of creatures. I think it's got a place, not amazing, but it again just helps us cheat out some cards or get some extra free mana. Again, with a deck like this, there's so many good cards you can add, and depending on the kind of route you want to go, if you want to focus more on the Enrage side, or maybe you want to focus on more of a, not control side, but maybe not getting maximum value off Gishath, but getting them on the field and making them more sticky. So you'd play more cards like the Heroic Intervention per se, just to make sure that whatever dinosaurs you have on the field aren't getting destroyed. But the number one thing that I'd probably upgrade from this deck would have to be just something like Heroic Intervention or Barrage Charm. Just try to save your creatures. Then after that, I would obviously buy some really big, cool looking dinos. Like, this guy's so cool, so fun. But yeah, I forgot, is this an infinite combo or not? I have to look that up again, it's been a while. I think it is though. Anyway though, hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know some things you run in your dinosaur deck or you plan on running. Again, that's why I love Commander and just building these decks, especially budget ones, is you can just buy some really fun, cheap cards and just have a good time. Don't need to net deck this 100%. I actually encourage you not to, because again, I didn't like test 100 games with this to make sure it was super optimal. I'm like, I'm gonna throw some really cool, cheap cards together and build a fun dinosaur deck and have a good time. Definitely let me know down below what you thought of the deck, as well as cards you're going to be adding to your deck. If you enjoyed the video, I encourage you to stick around on the channel because we will be discussing other budget deck techs, as well as other cards to add to your decks that won't make you break the bank. Take care everybody, I'll see you later.